A very warm welcome. You're joining us at Hyde Park on Ada Derana 24. Now, the emergence of the Omicron variant has somewhat dampened the hopes of a global normalization of travel and tourism. This is what experts say. This is what is spoken of in international media as well. In some cases, there have been reports of significant numbers of cancellations in the past week, and it now seems like countries may have to pull the handbrake on their grand plans to reopen their destinations. And from a Sri Lankan perspective, this deals a double blow, especially when we consider how important the tourism industry is to the country's foreign reserves position. Now, under the current circumstances, the tourism industry bears a heavy burden than before. Not only does it need to deal with its own recovery, but it is also somewhat of a last straw for Sri Lanka's economy. Well, to discuss all this and much more, I've invited to our studios the immediate past president of the Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tour Operators, Mr. Mahen Kariyawasam, joining us. A very warm welcome. Thank you for being here. We also have Mr. Anura Lokuhetty, former president of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka. Thank you for your time here as well. But first of all, I'd like to ask you what your perspective is, and also just as much as we were awaiting the reopening of Sri Lanka's borders, Sri Lanka's airports to welcome international tourists, we're talking about a new variant, a new COVID-19 coronavirus variants that could possibly dampen, as I said, the industry's outlook. But how do you all see this?
Well, if I may start on
Sure.
it. I think, first of all, it depends on the countries that we are getting. Our major markets have been Europe and India, of course. But because of this new variant, some of the main European countries have slowed down. We see that their bookings are getting a bit slowed down. But having said that, the whole of the Eastern Europe and Russia has picked up. And we are expecting many clients to come over there. And like, for example, we have Air Astana, which is commenced operations to Colombo, and they will have double daily flights starting next week. So that's a very good sign for us. And also the Sri Lankan Airlines flying into Moscow, bringing in about 150 to 200 clients per flight. So we see the Eastern Europe is really coming up on the market.
So does that mean we do not have to have much fear about the current trend globally?
At the moment, I think so. I think we don't have to really worry too much about it.
Okay.
And especially also the WHO has issued a statement today, very positive, where they say that the variant is okay with the Pfizer vaccine. So I think most of us are vaccinated very well over here.
Mr. Anura Lokuhetty, like from the hotelier's perspective, when this new variant, Omicron variant, is stoking fresh fears across the globe, what is it? How do your sector feel?
I think if travel agents are not scared, then we don't have to be scared at all, because most of the
because you'll have the numbers coming in to cater to.
Yeah. Yes. But on the other hand, I think Omicron was found as a variant of COVID-19, but since Sri Lanka has had completed to a great extent, completed a very good vaccination program, and also people, I would say, are more now prepared for this kind of thing, because I think social distancing, taking all these, following health guidelines in terms of people as well as the hotels and everybody concerned, I do not think that it will be a major issue for our country. But it's too premature for us to make statements as hoteliers and travel agents, because we are not health experts. But according to the WHO, the latest statement, it gives more hope to us, saying that it will not be that dangerous.
But how are the tour operators as well as the hoteliers working towards this? We've been trying to reopen the country, and there have been significant setbacks over the last 1.5 years. And also, this is an industry that has been battered since the Easter Sunday attacks as well.
Even before.
Even before too. But we've been slowly recovering. But what is the strategy now? How are you all working together? I'm trying to understand this because 2022 we are looking at a new year and possibly a better year for tourism Sri Lanka.
If I may come in, I think here it's very important for us to work with the foreign tour operators, especially with the promotions, promotion bureau and so on. So this is what will bring us more tourists into the country. And like I said before, also India. India is also one of our major markets. And we just reached the significant amount of 100,000 tourists for last month. So I think the Indian market is also very important for us at this moment. And with Sri Lankan Airlines, with Go Air coming in, Air India coming in, so there is a lot of potential as well from India. So I think this variant, the new variant will not be a problem for the Eastern Europe, Indian markets. It might be a problem for maybe for Germany, for the UK, France. Maybe we'll have some reduction in bookings. But as we go on, I think it's looking very positive for the moment.
But how does it, what's the outlook in terms of working Sri Lanka's branding aspect of it? Because we have to start branding. Even for the hotels to fill up, we need that. So talking about the Sri Lanka tourism efforts here, how do you look at that support as an industry regulator, leader?
Yes, I think, as I said before, working with foreign tour operators is the key for this. Of course, the Sri Lanka Promotion Bureau is also starting on the global advertising campaign. That will kickstart hopefully in the first quarter of next year. And at the moment, we do have also a program to do some promotions in the key markets like Russia, India, also the UK. So I think it's in a good way at the moment.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah. And also we have, for example, we have the lot Polish Airlines coming in. They just had their first flight, so they're coming in 3 times a week.
Right.
So you have Ukraine Airlines coming in. So a lot of new airlines are coming into the country. So that's a positive sign for us at the moment.
I'd also like to ask Mr. Lokuhetty your point of view in terms of the infrastructure that we need and also the branding aspect. Yeah. As a country, not just individual tourism service providers, but as a destination.
Now I think right now as a branding, most important factor is to tell the world that we are a very safe country to travel and our health guidelines are very well followed and you must not fear to come to Sri Lanka kind of thing. That's a kind of branding right now we require because that is some kind of confidence for the traveler to come to Sri Lanka. Because we are not the only country which is trying to get the guests. So most of the countries in the world are trying to get the customers, and according to the UNWTO, the numbers of travel will be reduced naturally next year also to some extent because it will take some time due to various factors. But we are very optimistic. We have to be because we are people, I think I am also in the industry for more than 4 decades. So we have faced all kinds of issues, but nothing like this COVID situation. So with regard to the hotels, hotels have a major issue because we cannot sustain the hotels any further without guests. So we definitely require guests. And during last 1.5 years to 2 years, mostly we have had hardly any tourists, only 100,000 this year up to now. And we require about 2.5 to at least 3.5 million people to fill the hotels. So therefore you can see how badly the hotels are doing currently. Only thing was last 3 months, I think, since they reduced the interprovincial travel, locals have helped us. Sri Lankan tourists have helped the hotels to some extent. And before that, hotels were supported by the, what do you call these, some people who came for quarantine. Right. And then some hotels were even converted to the intermediate care centers, so they tried their every possible thing to survive. So branding for the country is very important, and we hear that the tourist board is SLTPB is trying to do a global campaign, and that is really required at this moment. Unfortunately, I don't think all this time, even before pre-COVID, this global campaign never took place in a proper manner. At least now it is a very vital thing to do. Right. And because Sri Lanka is not unknown in the world of tourism, because Sri Lanka started tourism at least more than 50 years ago. Some other countries who have come in the meantime are doing well, like Maldives and all. But of course, those are different products. So Sri Lanka, I think tourism plays a very, very vital role. We provide at least 1/10 of the population employment. Not only that, it also provide more employment for the most vulnerable sectors, that is women and youth. So therefore, for the Sri Lankan economy, tourism plays a vital role. So this is the time that the government has helped over the last 1.5 years by giving moratoriums and various ways to sustain this industry. But now we need something beyond that, like you know, to construct a hotel, you spend fairly a large amount of money, and if you look at most of the all over the world, more than 80% is the small and medium sector. Sri Lanka story also the same. So most of them have taken loans and built hotels, and thereby helping the economy to provide employment for the economic activity. Now their loans are perhaps more than the the asset value. So therefore, rescheduling of these loans and also giving rescheduling of loans for the people to pay them over a longer period, and some kind of assistance will be required to take off.
I'd like to come to that also probably after this break. But before we take a short break, Mr. Kariyawasam, now I think Mr. Lokuhetty was talking about the requirement to overcome the current challenges, but at the same time, as it were, operators also doesn't this sector have a responsibility to take the story across to the world that Sri Lanka is a safe destination? We're questioning whether the tourism authority is doing enough, but at the same time, how does that work?
Yes, definitely. Our colleagues are doing it. As tour operators, we go out and we meet our agents and we promote the country. Like last month, we were in London for the World Travel Market. And we went where we met our operators, convinced them to come back to Sri Lanka, because a lot of people were not aware that Sri Lanka was open for tourism. So that was also a very good platform.
But what's the response like?
The response was very good at the World Travel Market. And some of the major operators, they came and met us, and they were convinced that Sri Lanka could operate, and they immediately started selling Sri Lanka.
Actually, history of Sri Lanka tourism, tour operators have played a vital role. And most, even for last so many years, it is we who went overseas for all these trade fairs and participated in with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Tourism Board or SLTPB. So therefore, I think that effort continues. But when you talk of a global campaign, you definitely requires a major focus and a proper drive and to ensure it goes through.
And support and backing. Let's talk about what authorities and what sectors we need to bring together to enable this effort and give Sri Lanka tourism that push we require to overcome these current challenges. We'll return after a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. I'd like to turn to Mr. Kariyawasam again about inbound tour operators. You were talking about the challenges we have and the kind of work for promotion or promoting the destination. But what exactly do you need from the government or from the authorities?
Well,
because the inbound tour operators would have been affected. You had no work to do, no tourists to bring into the country.
Definitely, like Anura explained, we also had the same situation where our operators didn't have any work. So actually what we are also looking forward is the promotions. For example, we have just given a proposal to the tourism authorities to sponsor the Indian travel agents annual conference in Sri Lanka. This is going to bring in about 500 travel agents from India into Sri Lanka. Most probably it will happen in January, February. We are just awaiting the approval from the Finance Ministry. Once we get that, that will be a very good opportunity to showcase Sri Lanka for the Indian market. Because otherwise we go every year to India, maybe 4 or 5 times we go for the exhibitions. We spend about more than 100 million rupees going there. But whereas if they come here and we meet, and it gives an opportunity for everyone to meet, the small and medium enterprises, everyone could meet up and interact with them. So that's one big project that we are planning to do, maybe coming in January or February. That should happen as
but
well.
that's as the Inbound Tour Operators Association.
Right.
What support are you looking from the government,
from the
authorities?
We are looking for some sponsorships to sponsor the event for 3 days, so that we just invite the Indian agents to come over here, and then after the event, of course, they will be going on their own, on the round trips to see the country and so on. So that's, I think, what we are asking from the government. And also, our main, like I said before, our main target is to work with the foreign tour operators. So we have to support them, because if we support them only, they will start pushing Sri Lanka. Otherwise, they will not push Sri Lanka. So we have given a proposal for that as well.
Right.
We are awaiting the positive response from them, so that we could go forward for that. Otherwise, it's difficult to market Sri Lanka without the support of the tour operator.
Talking about marketing Sri Lanka as a destination, I come back to it. Yes, we have a slow recovery now, or it'll take time. But as we've been talking about tourism, this the requirement for branding or marketing Sri Lanka in a bigger scale has been the requirement for a long time. We've been constantly talking about Sri Lanka's slogan, which kept changing, and for a moment we ourselves wondered whether we were
land like no
other, small miracle, paradise island. We have so much, but we talk about incredible India. We talk about
amazing Thailand.
Amazing Thailand. There are brand slogans that actually stick,
driven into the
correct
minds.
But as the industry, is there enough done as a collective, or do you not have a voice to achieve what we look for? Because this is an amazing destination. We have everything we need in the country inside this stand, but there is very little marketing done.
I think this has been a problem for long years. We need to identify, when you have too many products also, it becomes difficult to position maybe, but I don't think so. I think it is the focus, proper focus, and do a slogan or tagline and stick with it for some time until it establishes. Here, when you go from one to another, you know, so there is no continuity. So I think, like many other industries, tourism requires a proper policy for at least 5 or 10 years long term. That is how the countries have come out of, develop their tourism. Not from every 2 years or 3 years to change, or when the government changes, the whole thing changes and they want to bring in a new look kind of thing, must be changed. We need at least a proper policy for next 5 to 10 years, short term and long term, and then establish it and go through it. And those global promotions and all, whatever that are planned by the current board, must continue when a new board is appointed. Now what has happened is, those things stops whenever chairpersons changes. So that shouldn't happen, because tourism is the best industry for Sri Lanka for its future development, and it's that foreign exchange earning wise, it can be the biggest contributor for the Sri Lankan economy. And considering its multiplier effect, there is no other industry can provide so much of multiplier effect. So tourism, every tourist who comes create at least 10 jobs to the other people. So and Sri Lanka, unlike other countries, if you look at Dubai, now they realize that natural resources diminish over a period of time. What did they try to develop next? Tourism. What did they have for tourism? Nothing. They made, or they created a lot of man-made wonders in that country. Now look at right now, even T20 this time was played in Dubai. So the number of people who were brought in. So likewise, now Sri Lanka is blessed with so much of things. You know, we have at least 30, 40 tourism products. Now Maldives has only one, and they are capitalizing it like crazy. And then they attract the top end. Now we have culture, nature, adventure. Look at our country. I mean, few kilometers, weather patterns are changed, then landscape is different. We have so much of natural resources.
Or is the problem that our problem that we cannot attract high spenders? Do we not have products for high spenders here? in Sri Lanka?
That could be one. That could be one reason, and also the necessary infrastructure. Like a high-spending tourist wouldn't want to get out of the airport and drive for 3 to 4 hours in a car to get to his resort. But now with the highways coming into place, I think that issue has also been sorted. But traditionally, we have been not been getting the high-spending tourists. That's right. That's the area that we have to concentrate
on. But what's the challenge? I mean, I think you're at the receiving end there.
The main challenge is the product that we have to offer. I think we should have a better quality.
Something I think we have quite a few products now. Actually, that's true what Mahen was telling. We were looking at mass tourism in the early 80s.
Yeah, with the charters started at that time.
And we had 100% charters coming to Sri Lanka. So it changed from 2000. Now we have basically very little charters. Again, with the COVID pandemic, the charters have started coming. Otherwise, there was hardly any charters. Yeah. We have the products now, I think. But it is also positioning once again.
Correct.
And again, marketing, coming back to the same. Now we have some beautiful products, and unlike some other countries, they are in unique locations. For a hotel, most important factor is location, location, location. So Sri Lanka is blessed with it. I mean, okay, high-end market could be very small, and it need over a period of time without any trouble for at least 10 years.
But the Maldives is depending on the
Maldives started even much lower than us. But today they are gone very high because actually they had continuous development and they have good policies, I suppose. And also with the COVID situation, it's ideal because you can't have a better product than that. So they are capitalizing it well. That is what we should also do, really. We must capitalize on our natural resources. And also the little challenges, now say if you are promoting Sri Lanka's natural resources only, then there will be limitations. I'm also very much not for mass tourism.
Right.
How many people can be in Yala at any given time? How many people can climb Zigiri? Right. So that is, there are certain restrictions. So what we should do is we must look at, as we all agree, little by little we must start attracting high-end tourists. That will be very helpful for the industry, and the revenue will be the same, and it will help for the sustainability of this beautiful country. Because Sri Lanka, I don't think we should ever look at mass tourism. But you can't change overnight.
You can't change it because we already have the infrastructure, the hotels,
it will go for some time.
Into it.
So but is that something that the tour operators can approach? I mean, is that the view of the tour operators as well?
Yes, we need, of course, we need the mass tourism because of the product that we have at the moment. We have to survive. But I think the high-end tourism, it has to be developed during a period of time. Yeah. Now that we have the necessary infrastructure, like the roads and maybe the internal flights will come in very soon with the new airports coming in. I think that might be a good thing. And the main important thing is, I think, for the government also, tourism is a 99% private sector driven industry. So they should get together with the private sector and work. Now, for example, we are a little bit disturbed that there is going to be plans for a new tourism act to come in, where the role of the private sector is not highlighted, and it's more towards the government sector. I think that will not be a successful formula to go ahead with. So we are at the moment discussing. And
so isn't there any input or consultation from the private sector that was sought from the government?
We do have. We have been asked to give some comments on it. So we as one industry got together and we will be doing that in the coming days. We went and met our Honourable Minister, explained to him, and he understood the problem. So I think, so these are little things that we have to tie up.
But why does the private sector feel alienated here? We're trying to understand whether whether the private sector, the requirements, challenges, or regulations that are needed for the private sector are not addressed. Or
I think it's a situation we have.
Actually, there is a little history to this also. This new act was established in 2004. And that was after going through many other countries' tourism policies, and it took us for more than 10 years. We all felt at that time, even now we feel the same, the tourism is a heavily, how should I say, participated by the private sector, 99%, right? So therefore, and also we came forward to provide 1% of our total revenue to for the promotions. That is what is called TDL,
right.
Tourism Development Levy. Now we felt that we could assist the government or the authorities by having sufficient representation from the main two parties, that is the TASL, the Hotel Association of Sri Lanka, and the Sri Lanka SLITO, Sri Lanka Inbound Tour Operators, right, Association. So these two, and also of course ASMET is another small. There may be new other organizations as well. We are not against representation of the everyone, but at the same time, so that that was suggested and that was passed in the parliament, and we felt that it was going on the right direction. And anyway, right now we have a much bigger situation than talking of act. Right now we are working for the survival.
But shouldn't also the ground be prepared for the post-pandemic situation where this because you have been you have been in the industry for decades now, and you've seen the challenges Sri Lanka encountered throughout these years, decades. But we are talking about, compared to that, a hiatus of 2 or 3 years, but post-pandemic also, shouldn't we be prepared?
Of course, because it is the biggest challenge we have, because it's an industry where a lot of investments have been made, a lot of people's lives are dependent upon, countries' main foreign exchange earning avenues, so therefore we have to really think of it. That's why we are saying, right now, let's concentrate more for at least next 1 or 2 years. How can we get out of this difficult time? And then we can sit down nicely and discuss the whole matter again. And if there are any amendments required to amend those, do the necessary amendments, right, and then go in a more sustainable manner.
We'll take a short break here at Hyde Park. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We are in conversation with Mr. Mahen Kariyawasam, immediate past president of the Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tour Operators, as well as Mr. Anura Lokuhetty, the former president of the Hotel Association of Sri Lanka, on Sri Lanka tourism as a destination, the road to recovery. As we talk about the road to recovery, we cannot neglect, ignore, or not speak of the informal sector, a sector that is hard hit. Yes, the big mega hotels, the major players, the major operators, it's safe to say that you somehow survived. But have we wiped out this informal sector? Who do they turn to? Are you representing that side, which is also a major player that supports your industry?
We represent the entire industry, because hospitality is an inclusive business. So that every person involved in the industry is extremely important. And as I earlier also explained, more than 80% of the investments are from small and medium enterprises. So they have to be safeguarded. They are the worstly affected, like the small hotels. Then homestays were doing, I mean, it was bringing in some money for them. As a result, that sector also must have got totally wiped off now, right? Collapsed. But nevertheless, most importantly, the hotels must survive. If there is a hotel, only the tourists can go and stay. Even tour operators to bring tourists, we should have a hotel. The sustainability of the hotels, I mean, small or big or medium size, biggest issue right now is too long pandemic has created a lot of economical issues. And even if we restore the industry back, the other biggest challenge we are going to face is the employees, because most of the people have lost the interest of joining the industry. During last 1.5 years, some hotels had to stop the staff. Some of them were paid 50%. Some of them altogether lost the job. So we cannot convert a building into a hotel without having the staff. So to attract the staff again, we need the what do you call support. That means we need the tourists. So in order to get the tourists, after about 2.5 years, the hotels are great extent neglected because the hotel maintenance requires a lot of money. So therefore, we will require some kind of time to even pay the loans. Right now the moratorium is helping a lot because at least you don't have to look for money to pay to the bank.
Sure.
So, but even though that we are not paying the what do you call installment, it has got accumulated and there is additional interest collected. So that is why I was speaking of a requirement of a credit line to support and reschedule these loans.
This is in order to revive the industry, to get a kickstart from where we stopped.
More a kickstart and then sustain it, because otherwise, imagine if a hotel closes, it is not the people who are directly employed. The person who supplies vegetables, all these other items, then the people who provide transportation. There is a huge multiplier effect. So therefore, first we must sustain the parent, you see, that is the hotel. So if the hotel is maintained and helped, or help the sustainability, then the entire society will get supported. So therefore, we have to really ensure that some strong steps are taken to reschedule the loans and support this industry.
Have your associations made any representation on this, the financial requirement?
Yeah.
Is there support forthcoming?
Yes, actually, if I take my membership of Slido, 90% of our members are from the SME sector. Only about 10% are from the larger groups. So actually, for the transport providers, for the people who had buses and vehicles, there are a lot of problems with the leasings, with all these finance companies and so on. So we are happy that the government has extended some support to us, given us the moratoriums. Like my colleague said, I think the best way is to go forward is to have a credit line. Because even if tourism picks up tomorrow, it doesn't mean that we will come back to the 2018 levels. It will take another 1.5 to 2 years to pick up and come to that level. So we need a credit line with a small grace period of maybe 1.5 to 2 years, and then we will start paying. Of course, we can pay once the business picks up. We have not defaulted any banks or anything in our industry, because we have been, until the Saharan's attack came, everyone has been servicing their loans. So there has been no defaults in our sector. Even in the hotel sector.
Even if the banks take over the hotels, it will be a liability to them now.
Yeah, what can they do? So I think seriously we have to look in for.
But this moratorium, was that enough? Was that sufficient?
No,
did the banks comply accordingly? Was there support?
No, that was like a stopgap.
It was okay temporary for that time.
That time.
Now, like interest on interest kind of thing. Now that's got accumulated. So that's the issue now. That's why we say that we need a rescheduling of all these loans for a longer period with a grace period for the survival of the industry.
That's why we need a credit line.
So but is the road to recovery possible given the essentials that are in place now?
Certainly. Tourism is the industry that will revive faster than any other industry. That, I mean, if you look at even after tsunami, and Sri Lankans are very resilient. We had a terrorist issue for 30 years. Then we had certain other issues in the south in 1989-90 period. Then we were hit by a tsunami. Then Easter Sunday attack. Now COVID situation. So I don't think any other nation would have faced the challenges that we have faced over last 30-40 years.
We spoke about policy consistency. This is something, inconsistent policy is something we talk about across all industries or sectors. But tourism, again, I'd like to touch on that before we wrap up. What policies are we looking at for a sustained industry? We spoke about the requirement to attract more high-end tourists to sustain this industry and the land, the destination as a whole. And we spoke about policy requirement to support the industry. But going forward, what do we really need in place, the essentials in place to enable this, the recovery path?
I think right now we have to take a stock of the number of hotel rooms we have in the country. So we must have some kind of a restriction or something for new hotels to come up for a particular period at least, right? Otherwise, there will be more burden on the industry, right? And then number two is we must position our country. Okay, now we are calling it
So Sri Lanka.
So Sri Lanka, right? So, I mean, even that I don't mind. Have it for at least.
We got to continue with that because it's we can't be changing like you said.
At least continue it for 5 years, 10 years, and see whether Otherwise, we are confusing the mind of the guest, the person. Then we should have. We must understand. Okay, high-end tourists is true, but it will take a long time. So until such time, we have to sustain what we have. We have is basically 3 to 4 star clients. That is our majority at the moment. So we have to continue cater to those clients, and also maintain high standard of service levels. That is important because now there are so many destinations in the world for them to go. And we must have, as I said, the proper policy for tourism in terms of recruitments, training, and I have always requested tourism to be included as a subject in the school curriculum even, because the simple reason is tourism is the future of this country. So we have to see that more people get attracted to the tourism industry.
We speak about our smiles, how warm we are when we, how hospitable we are as a country, but beyond that, what do you guess, what do these tourists require?
Actually, there are a lot of people come here for the experience as well nowadays. They like to come and see how we live, how we experience life. So that's something, a new concept, and a lot of people are looking forward for that. Not just coming and staying stuck in a hotel room and trying to do something. So they like to go, they like to travel with the train. Like you have seen, even Alla has become so popular destination in Sri Lanka.
Way of life.
It's a way of life there. And then if you take the down south towards Veligama, that area, Hirakatiya, in that area, I mean, it's developing quite good, and it's also helping the SME sector. So
we can't also forget the local tourists who I think helped sustain this industry somewhat over this period. Did the industry have a change of heart, because there were services or products that local tourists were not otherwise that were not accessible to the local tourists? I know, but yes, there is a gap. It is targeting a different.
Not necessarily. I think we never have any kind of discrimination for tourists or Sri Lankans. We have to first serve our people. Our people are very important, and they have sustained this industry over the last 30-40 years, because we have had what you call all kinds of calamities in this guy. Airport was attacked and all that. It's not the issue. Issue is demand and supply situation. So certain periods there is more demand by foreigners in terms of, so naturally the cost of our biggest issue today is cost of food items. So naturally the cost have gone up in every aspect. So naturally we can't sell at if we were selling a room at 20,000 rupees 2 years ago, today we have to sell it at least 30 rupees to recover the cost. And we are also requested the government authorities to look at us in 2 other most important areas. One area is electricity. We pay higher electricity rate than all other industries. That is unfair. And also local authority taxes are much higher for tourism, and for no reason. And we contribute so much to the country's economic growth.
Foreign exchange.
We bring foreign exchange. So therefore, it is very important. Those are the things that I was talking about, policy matters kind of thing. We shouldn't get discriminated, because we are discriminated, I would say, in terms of charging more electricity from us, charging local authority taxes at a different rate. Those are 2 major items that we are faced with. On top of that, now the new 2.5% tax that is going to be imposed will be very disastrous for the industry, because from the top line, if you take 2.5, naturally we have to increase our rates. And Sri Lanka is not alone. We have to our products will have to compete with Thailand and many other parts of the world.
We have about 1 minute to wrap up. Is there anything you have to add to?
Well, I think I would like to urge especially the government and the regulator to work with the private sector, especially the DMCs. The DMCs are the people who bring in the tourists, like quite correctly he was mentioning. So I think we should work together without any issues coming in forward. And I think for the next 1.5 to 2 years, we have to work together with all the authorities, all the stakeholders together to take this industry forward.
Thank you very much for your valuable observations and your perspective on the industry, and for sharing your thoughts. We had with us Mr. Mahen Kariyawasam, immediate past president of the Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tour Operators, joining us here. We also had Mr. Anura Lokuhetty, former president of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, joining us here at Hyde Park tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week with another episode of the show.